Oh, okay.
Because it's supposed to be super cold this week.
Well, yeah, I was going to talk to you about that from this past week too, so,
Sure.
yeah.
We're gonna work on something that you can practice indoors.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
And then of course, just when you can, do what you can with the healing stuff.
Yes.
Because I think the next week or two is supposed to be pretty cold.
Really cold.
Yeah. So.
And his feet are so tender. Like even with a bunch of Musher's Secret on him, I can't even get him like around the building.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
So,
he's not built for the cold weather.
yeah, so I was gonna say, like, and then I don't know if you remember, but we were here Saturday afternoon, and then the snowstorm started Saturday night.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh my God, so like, and you know, people shoveled this wide of a path, so I'm kind of worried that I'm training him to walk behind me, because that's the only way we can do it, you know?
Sure.
But anyway, but that being said, I did keep a journal, but we can talk about it the next time we work on healing or whatever.
Sure, so did you happen to see any dogs this week?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yeah,
how did that
there
go?
was one crazy day. Really good for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There was one day where we ran into 3 dogs,
Okay.
and the first dog, I circled it because I wanted to make sure. So we were on a walk. Well, and so the hard part with the snow is I couldn't really step. There was nowhere for me to step away, you know, step to the side. But with this dog, I was on like a side street that was perpendicular. And it was a big golden lab retriever. And the woman, he was not on a leash, we're in the neighborhood. The woman's like, he's under control, he's fine. And I said, so is he. And I moved his number up to 33.
Okay.
We were at 23.
Okay.
Oh no, I just lied to you. Yeah, no, that's right, I moved it up. And then, so the dog's walking by, and yeah, the dog was walking by, but she had no control. Like she had to keep her body between him, and he wasn't aggressive, but he wanted to come and say hi.
Sure.
Well, I had him sit, and Jesse, he was shaking like a leaf. It was so strange, I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
He was sitting and looking at me, but his whole body was just like covered in tremors.
Sure.
And then the dog went by, and sure enough, in that window, the last part of that window, the dog came back and came toward Oakely. So Oakely stood up and stepped forward, and I tapped him. And then he looked back at me, looked at the dog, I tapped him again, and then he came back and sat down next to me.
Good.
And then that woman got her dog back.
Good.
So I thought it was pretty positive.
Yep.
Except the shaking like was really...
That's normal.
It is normal?
Yeah, because reactivity, correct?
Yeah.
So, reactivity is a stress response, okay? So, we're trying to teach them, so we have fight, flight, avoid, submission, right? Two main ones are fight or flight. And if you're moving the fight response, then that stress has to go somewhere. Okay, so that's where you see the shaking.
Okay.
Okay, so that's perfectly normal.
Oh, he was so scared. I don't know, or shaking, so anxious.
Yeah, we call it detoxing.
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
you gotta get the energy out.
Yeah.
So it's perfectly normal. What you would see is as you repeat this and you see more dogs and whatnot, the shaking goes away.
Okay.
Okay. Every now and then we get a dog that's just a really anxious or whatever dog.
Yeah.
And the shaking never fully goes away, but the reactivity and all that stuff obviously goes away. There has to be some kind of outlet.
Yeah.
Because we can't make him enjoy seeing a dog and dancing.
Right.
We can teach them, like, of course,
Just
not to walk.
Yeah.
That's not an option.
Yeah.
Like we get some dogs that when they see a dog, they'll turn around and give them their back. You know, because they know if they can't look at the dog, they give away instead. So, perfectly normal, not out of the ordinary.
Okay. Then there was another, like on the same walk, a Dalmatian walked by a street right in front of us. He had no reaction, he didn't pull me, he didn't tug. We had to stop twice because they stopped, so I was trying to give them space, fine. And then, oh my God, it was exactly like what you described. We were walking and I was sort of just processing everything that had happened, so I wasn't fully attentive because we were nearly home, and around the corner comes this owner and the puppy literally running, and they literally ran into us. Oh my God. So I don't even think he reacted, but my leash was slack, and so I kind of just, with my leg, shoved him into the fence, and I don't even think I tapped him, and they kind of ran on by. And it was really good. He's still super, we ran into the first floor dog who's this huge huge dog who always barks at us really aggressively. And twice we were going up the stairs and that dog was coming out the door. And I didn't have time to up the taps, so I tapped him on 23 and there was no reaction at all.
Sure.
But he runs up the stairs and then turns to look at him, but that's it.
Okay.
Those were the main ones. I didn't write it down. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we went to the dog park. I was trying to get him off leash just to try to get some energy out of him. And so we were there alone. That's the only reason I went. And then a dog was coming, so I quickly grabbed him, and we were in the back leaving gate, safe area, and the dog came in the other gate and came running over to us. I was putting my gloves back on, so he went over to the fence and put his nose down to smell first, and then started reacting. So I tapped, and kept moving it up, and 46, I finally got him to respond and come over to me. But then we left.
Okay. Well, after you tapped him on 46, did he keep looking at the fence, or did he let it go?
He came over to me and sat down, and then the owner called his dog over.
Okay, good.
And then we walked out. But I also knew we hadn't really trained that, but I was like, I didn't want to not do something about it.
Sure. No, it was a good, how do you say, it's good information, because now we have 46 as like a baseline.
Yeah.
Right, so then the next time if that were to ever happen again, I would just jump straight to 46.
Well, that's it. Him alone with me, 23.
Yep.
20 to 23. When there's a dog in the picture, it's 30 to 35 as a starting point, which I realized I felt terrible, Jesse. Our first walk, that first night, I started at 35 because that's where we were here.
Oh, sure.
He literally, all 4 feet came off the ground. He cried and he looked at me. It was hard. I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my God. So then I went down. Because without another dog, he's much more responsive. But then adrenaline or something.
Correct.
Suddenly it's like.
What I would do is operate in the middle.
Okay.
So 35, let's say 23 and 35, right? That's your range. Is I would try operating around 28, 30.
Okay.
So in the beginning, we start low, we find that working number, and then during the walk, if you have to raise it, I always say keep track of the highest number you go to, right?
Yeah.
So if we always end up landing at 35 at the end of a walk when the dog is perfect, then I just start at 35.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I'm saying.
But for him, it was too much, especially without the dog, right?
All week it's been 20 to 23, and my highest, on a normal walk, was solid, in the 20s. But then, once there's a dog interaction, then my highest goes to, there was 46 at one time. But then usually it's in the 30s to 40s. If there's a dog involved, 30 to 40 for sure.
Sure. So what I would try doing is operating on the higher end of the 20s.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is get the obedience or get the level of control to a point where you can go from a setting with no dogs into a setting with dogs and not have to change.
I see.
That's ideal.
Okay.
Right? Where you have this consistent range and you become more paranoid about the obedience without the stimuli.
Okay.
So that when the stimuli does come in, he doesn't even think about it.
Okay.
In other cases, it'll be you have your number and then when you see a dog, you just kind of jump it.
Okay.
Every case is different. But what I would do is operate, maybe 28-ish to see how he does.
Sure.
And then if you find that operating at 28 and then you see a dog in passing and you don't have to do anything, that's actually
perfect.
what we're trying to get.
Okay. Got it.
Excellent. So that's good. So we'll continue with that. What we're going to cover today is, of course, an indoor exercise. This is meant for duration work, meant for stationary control.
Okay.
So if you go somewhere, he's not all over the place. You can tell him to do something and he'll stay put for a bit.
Okay.
So there's in training, there's what I call a trifecta. The walk with me, the come to me, and the don't move. Okay. Now for stationary control, we do have 3 different commands. We have sit, down, and place. Today we're going to cover the place command, which means go to your bed. The reason why I start this command first is it's the easiest to teach, but also it's the most lenient to begin that kind of work. Because sit, of course, that would be a sit. If we said that he has to stay in that strict position, he cannot leave it until I give him permission. Same thing with the down command. If he lays down, he cannot move from that position unless I release him. With the place command, I don't care if he sits stands or lays down. I just don't want him to leave the
That
area.
space.
Okay, so it's easier to start the duration aspect of things, and as we go along, we'll teach the other ones as well.
Okay.
So it's super simple. What we're gonna do first is you're gonna start about 1 to 1.5 feet away. And you're gonna start off with the short leash. Okay. And what's your number currently set at?
20, but I haven't calibrated him at all because I thought he'd be different in here than
Okay.
out there.
We'll go down to like 15. We'll go down a little bit lower because we're teaching something new. So whenever we teach something new, we do go down low.
Okay.
Is you're gonna start about this close. You're gonna shorten your leash. If he were to go on his own, I'm gonna have you not allow him. And you're gonna pull him back. You're gonna wait a moment, and then you're gonna start tapping. We'll just say tap. And by the second or third tap, if we see no response, we're gonna keep tapping, and then you're gonna add a little bit of leash pressure to guide him towards the bed. But you're not gonna move. You're gonna stay stationary. Okay. Once all 4 paws are there, you're gonna stop tapping, and we're gonna wait. If he happens to step off or overshoot it, you're going to then add in counter pressure with the tapping to direct him back onto the bed. Once he's back on, we stop tapping. Okay? And there's not going to be any words in the beginning other than good, pleb, no, he did a good job. And then you're going to cue break, move away, get him off the bed, and then repeat.
Okay.
Questions?
Okay. So we're gonna stand on the side. I'm gonna apply a little pressure at the beginning or no?
No
Not at
pressure.
the beginning. No
You're
pressure
gonna start
at the
tapping
beginning,
first.
just
Yeah.
tapping. And then I'm gonna apply some pressure with the leash. And I'm gonna tap him until 4 feet are on the bed. And then I'm not gonna tap while he's on the bed. If he starts to walk off, I'll try to bring him back to the bed and tap until he's there.
And then break to release him.
And then break, he comes off the bed.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, should I give him like a warning tap right now so he knows we're working?
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
And so you'll pause right there.
Okay, should I start tapping?
And you're gonna tap, tap, tap. Now, as you're tapping, keep tapping, stay put, and then with your leash, pull forward, tap, 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 tap. So you see how he's resisting a bit, right?
Totally.
Let's go and bump to 20.
Okay.
And tap, 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 tap. Right there, and praise. Good. And now you're gonna say break, and you're gonna move backwards.
Break.
Like that, perfect, okay? And we'll repeat that a few more times.
Good boy. Can I say good boy?
Yep.
Start tapping?
Now. Tap, tap. Now tap and pull, tap, tap, tap. Good. And there. Good.
Good boy.
And break.
Break.
Good, 3 more.
Okay. Good boy. Tap.
Tap, tap, tap. Now tap and pull. Right there. Good. A little bit easier.
Totally.
And boy. And break.
Break. Good
Good.
boy. Good boy.
Let's jump to like 25.
Okay.
Tap, tap, tap. A little bit of a pull. Tap. Right there. Good. And break.
Break.
Good. 1 more.
Good boy.
Tap, 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 and pull. Good. Excellent. So now, we're going to repeat that same process, but now you're going to start walking around and sending from different angles. Okay? So you'll send from like here, or you'll come around and send from here.
Okay.
But you're going to keep that same kind of 1 square to square and a half distance. Okay?
Okay. And how should I say break? Break. Good boy. Good boy.
There you go.
Okay. Tap.
Right there. Better. Good. And break.
Break.
Good.
Good boy.
More. Right, good. Good.
What's up your nose?
Oh, you got a little fur.
Yeah, you did. Break. Good boy. Good boy.
Good, 3 more.
I didn't even
So
have
here, if you go prematurely, I'm gonna have you counter him with some leash tension
Okay.
to keep him at your side, and then
Okay.
pause, and then start the tapping process.
Okay, shoot.
It's okay.
Should I say good dog or just break?
You just break him.
Okay, break.
Because now he's starting to pick up the tab, right?
Yeah.
And it's good because he's learning the exercise, but we want to make sure that it's the tab itself that he's actually responding to.
Okay.
Good. Better. Yeah, boy.
Break.
Yeah,
Good
2 more.
boy. Good dog. Good boy.
Good.
Break.
And last one.
Good boy.
Good. See how that was one tap?
Yep.
So, as we're repeating this, he's starting to get more of a concrete concept, right? So now, next step is same process. You're gonna keep walking around and sending him, but now we're gonna increase that distance about 2 squares back.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna get a little bit further, and we're gonna keep pushing it. Ideally, what we wanna see is like what happened at the end.
Yeah.
Is most trainers, when they teach the place command, they walk the dog there.
Up
Like
into
this,
it. Uh-huh.
okay?
Uh-huh.
And the dog can become dependent on that movement
Uh-huh.
forward.
Right.
And I want to be able to just say place and the dog goes.
Yeah.
So the other thing is if I'm stationary and I'm close like this, it makes it easier for him. But it's very clear that when I'm tapping, when he goes from here to here,
Yeah. It's
right?
it
It's very
stops.
obvious.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when people walk the dog, it's the momentum that sends them.
Right.
And I really don't know if the dogs understand the concept of the word place or if they're just going with the momentum.
Yeah.
Okay?
Whichever direction we're heading in.
Yeah, so then once we're like back here and we're using the word place or whatever cue you want to use, and they go place, boom, the dog just goes.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have to do anything.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So we're going to start, again, same process, but now you're going to be going a little bit further back,
Okay.
about 2 to 2.5 squares.
Okay. Okay. Break. Break. Good boy. Come on. Good dog.
Great. Good job. Perfect. Good. Yeah, boy.
Break. Good dog. Good boy.
Good. 4 more. There you go. Better.
I didn't even tap that last time.
Yeah, that third, I saw that was 1, 2 on
Yeah.
that one. That was good. Yeah, boy.
Okay, good boy. Good boy. Okay, come on.
3 more. Good. You got 25, correct?
Yeah.
Let's go into,
Good boy.
go 28.
Break. Break. Okay.
Good. Give me 1 more.
And he can just stand there. It's okay to
Yep.
just stand there. Okay. Okay. Break. Good boy. Come on.
him on the bed, but I'm gonna have you go ahead and have a seat, but keep the leash in your hand. Tap, tap,
Oh, 10.
tap, tap. And go ahead and get up and you're gonna guide him back towards the bed, tap. Right there, good, and then back to the seat. Tap, tap. A little bit of counter pressure, tap. Right there, good. Right there. I can't remember, did you say there was something with his hip?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, that's why he sits like that.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
So here, what we're teaching, of course, is tap means to go here. Because for the past week, tap is meant
Right,
on the left side,
exactly.
or it's meant to don't do that.
Right.
So dogs can learn that the contraction means different things, and it depends on the context. Okay, so when you're walking with him, if you're like this to him, right, and he's falling behind and you tap him, your leg really should be here. So then he sees that and oh, I'm supposed to be here, right? And then if he's standing, the world looks a certain way. So when you come to a stop, he should automatically sit. So if he doesn't, you tap him, he's, oh, okay, I forgot, and then he goes into a sit.
I meant to ask that. That's one of the questions I had. So every time I stop, he should be sitting.
Technically, in this weather, I don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, because especially with these short-haired breeds.
Oh.
Now, if he's doing good, I don't worry about it.
Yes, yes.
If you're to say like, man, Jensen, he's still just as reactive as he was before training, then we have to be super strict.
No, it like within 24 hours, it was different.
It was
Like
good.
it's been different walking. My friend who I do my long walks with was like, oh my God. She's like, maybe I need to do this. Because, and her dog's not even that bad, but like,
Sure.
he was so good.
Good.
No, and I should have started with that. I only started with like my comments, but it's been really good. Difficult with the snow, but he has been that was the other thing I wanted to ask. When he starts to get in front of me and I turn, do I always tap him or
Yes.
only when I feel pressure on the leash?
You always tap him if you're doing a correctional turn.
Okay.
Okay, because if you're doing that correctional turn, it means he's out of place.
Okay.
So we always give it at least one tap there.
Okay.
If you're doing a turn for the sake of, I need to go back the other way,
Right.
and you slow down and he turns with you, then you don't need to do anything.
Okay.
Okay? I use every single and little opportunity that the dog gives me to always remote.
Okay.
Okay? Most people give the dog a window.
Yeah, I think I did that. I was like, because I wasn't sure, and I was like, oh God, I know here that I tapped, because that's because he was always falling behind. But then at home, he was right with me on every turn, so I wasn't tapping him, but then I thought maybe I'm supposed to be tapping him. Because I was turning because he had gotten a little in front of me.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that kind of turn, there has to be a tap.
Okay.
Because what can happen is he'll learn to play a game, or he'll get ahead of you, and when you turn, they'll right away come in to turn with you.
Yes.
And so if that happens, right, then what I do is I tap before I turn.
Okay.
Because the dog's learning.
Right.
He's going, hey, I can speed ahead. And if I see you turning, and
As
I
long
turn
as I'm with you,
I
yeah.
beat the punch,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then I flip it. And I
Okay.
go, well, the only way to beat the punch is not to pass me, period.
Okay.
Okay. So here we're teaching him that tap has another meaning or association, and it means to go here. Okay. So like, let's say you're in the home and you transfer this to his own dog bed or whatever. If you tap him and you're in the home and there's a bed there, his assumption would most likely to be go to the bed. Okay. So this is what we call the send, and then we have the don't move or the stay aspect of it.
Okay.
So we practice that a bit because we want to get the association of when you feel the tap go on the bed. So then when we move to this step here, and you had a seat, and he broke off to follow.
Yeah.
You started tapping. He goes, okay, well the last thing I did to turn this off was to go here.
Yeah.
He does that. You sat down. That was good. And then I sat down. And then I became a distraction.
Yeah.
So then you start tapping. A little bit of counter pressure. He goes back, and then he's been there since.
Yeah.
Okay. So now he's starting to understand or learn the don't move component. Okay. So with stationary command, sit down and place, we do not say stay. Okay, it's implied.
Okay.
So the way we create this implication is by correcting them. So we haven't said any kind of formal cue yet, but we're saying it through pressure. When this turns on, you go here. If you stay there, nothing happens, right? So when you try to sneak off and you started correcting him with no warning, that's actually how he learns to stay. Okay. Most people, and it's a tiny detail, that's a really common problem that people have, is they'll say, Jesse, I tell my dog go to place. And they go to place, but then 5 minutes later they break off, and I say go to place, and they go back, and then 5 minutes later they break off. And they're like, and I'm constantly telling them to go to place. And I go, yeah, because you keep repeating. Whereas I say it once, and if the dog breaks off prematurely, I correct them with no warning. So the only way to avoid the consequence is don't get off.
Yes.
Okay? When you repeat the command, you're resetting. So he goes to the place, 5 minutes goes by, he gets off, you say place, he goes back. But nothing told him not to go off in the first place.
Right,
okay?
right.
So it's
There
a
was no
reset.
consequence.
Correct, okay? So even if you were to say no or stop or whatever, it's still the same thing. There's some kind of warning. And it's no warnings that get the dog to behave better, right?
Right.
So it's like if like you're gonna drive, like there's like a certain suburb here in Illinois that people have told me, oh, when you go there, be careful, because the cops camp out, right? And you can't see them.
Yeah.
So now you don't know where the consequence is, right? So you're gonna be more paranoid about going the speed limit, so that you don't get that ticket.
Right.
Same thing here. He doesn't know where the cop is. Okay, he knows when I go here, if I break off prematurely, that consequence is going to happen. But if I don't move, I can avoid it. Okay, so that's why we don't ever repeat the command. We always say it once and then make it happen, and we enforce it. Okay. So for the first part, maybe 5 minutes, he was sitting down. And now we decided to lay down. Perfectly fine. Okay, because this command again is lenient. You can sit, you can stand, you can lay down, you can chew on a bone, you can play with a toy.
Stay, but just in that space.
Correct. Okay. So I like to start with this first because it gets the owners used to the duration component to things, and they tend to overlap. So if once we start this process, we start working on it, right? And then once we get to the point where we teach them like the formal down is more strict than place, right? So then I'll tell people, okay, you can kind of use them interchangeably, because if your dog can lay down and not move, which is more strict, place becomes even easier. Okay?
Yeah.
So this command, you can use it, there's a lot of different functions for it. A lot of people use it like if you go to a restaurant with their dog, and they want to bring their dog with them, but they don't want to have to like worry about what the dog is doing. They'll bring like a towel, they'll lay it down, go to place,
I like that.
the dog goes there, and then because you're going to be enjoying your meal, you don't really want to have to worry about what your dog is doing. Exactly, right? Is he doing this or is he doing that? So using the place command makes it a little bit more lenient so you can enjoy yourself, and it's easier to correct them if the dog makes a mistake. Whereas if I put them in a down, which that would be a down position, we have to be really strict about reinforcing that. Okay? So let's say you're gonna have guests come over, he's a little bit too happy with guests. If the guest is coming at 5:30, at 5 o'clock, he's already on the place. Okay?
Got it.
Now there's a difference here because a lot of people or clients struggle with my dog jumps on people when they come in home, right? Because they're too excited. So technically, place would prevent the dog from jumping on the people, okay? Because they can't get to them. But it does not teach the dog not to jump. Right? So like, let's say he's on the place, and then an hour later you go, okay, buddy, break. He gets off.
He's going to go and say hi to the new person he hasn't seen yet.
Say hi. Potentially jump, right? So then that's where we would correct the jumping behavior. Okay. So in order for a dog to learn to not do something, they need to technically do it and be corrected for it. So when you said when he went to the fence, and you went to 46, right? Is in that moment, because you didn't say anything, you just remoted, he learned, if I go to the fence, this happens. What happens if I go to mom and stay away from the fence? So if you repeated that, and let's say you walk past the fence again, and there's a dog in there, and he goes, last time I did it, this happened. What happens if I don't do anything? Nothing. Oh, cool. So I can avoid consequences. I just don't fence fight. Right? Same thing with the jumping stuff. So they go hand in hand. Most trainers teach obedience as the end all be all to fix things. But like, let's say if I tell a dog to sit, when someone greets them, they're too excited, they're still going to jump. Because the excitement is going to override the command of the sit. So that's where we correct the jumping. And then teach the dog, you don't do that. And I don't care if you sit, stand, or lay down when someone says hi, just don't jump on them. Because it's a little bit more simple. So when it comes to practicing the duration aspect of this, I just go about it when you're not going to be doing anything. If you're going to watch TV for a bit, you're going to work from home, be on your computer, eat lunch or eat dinner, read a book. Anytime you're just going to be stationary, you can practice this. So let's say I'm going to watch TV, take my dog bed, place it down, get him collared up and leashed up, place, he goes, and then I go to watch TV. 45 minutes go by, and he's like, this is boring. I'm gonna go over there. Correct him. He goes back. I go back to watching TV.
But I don't say the word again because that would be a reset.
Correct, right? So I'm practicing duration while I'm doing nothing. Okay, so I don't have to do 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes.
Right.
You could literally go home, pop out a 2-hour movie, and practice for 2 hours.
Okay.
Okay, because it's just don't move. So
Right.
like when we did this, it's now been about 10 minutes maybe. He corrected him for going to you, then he corrected him for going to me, and then he's just been sitting there.
Hasn't moved. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how we start to teach the stay component.
Okay. Okay.
Questions about this so far?
So when I go home and I start sort of from that sort of side place thing, like I start there in terms of making him understand that his dog bed is the place where I want him to go?
Correct. So this, like let's say you went home and you said place, he wouldn't just go, oh, I just learned this.
Right.
I'm gonna apply it to my dog bed. You would actually do what we just did today.
Right.
You'll start a foot away, really close.
And when do I start saying place? Or I don't? Or
we do.
Oh.
So after we cover this, we'll start incorporating the word.
Okay.
In the beginning at home, you're gonna start like you did today.
Okay.
No words.
Okay.
You're just teaching them. You're transferring
this
skill to that object.
Sure.
Okay. Once you see he's familiar with it and you tap him and he just goes, then you can say the word. Okay.
After he goes, I say it, not before.
Before, but what I mean is, once we see him responding to the tap and going there easily, then
I
you can
start.
the word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because let's say I say place and it takes me 5 minutes to get the dog to go there.
Right.
It's not going to
gone.
tie together, right?
Uh-huh.
So I want it to be instantaneous.
I see.
Because the other thing is, if I say place and he kind of saunters over there, that becomes place.
Yeah.
Place is a saunter to your bed.
I see.
Right? And
it's about the process as well. I want you there immediately.
Correct.
Got it.
So I like to create the behavior first, get it pretty good, and then we title it, because that's what it becomes.
That makes sense.
Okay?
That makes sense. Okay.
Other questions?
No, that's good. Not yet, anyway.
When it comes to the duration stuff, don't feel bad. A lot of people are like, oh, but the dog, like, is just sitting there all day. I'm like, dogs sleep 16 to 20 hours a day anyways. You're just picking where he's doing it, right? If you know, because you know how you would apply this, like just think to yourself, like, what's the longest I would use this for, and what's the environment, right? Let's say you would only really use this at a restaurant. Typically, a meal is an hour to hour and a half, right? You got to factor there's going to be more distractions, okay? So in the home, because there's less distractions, I would do a 2 to 2.5 hour command to make it more difficult through duration.
Yes.
To prep them for an hour to hour and a half meal.
Distractions.
Exactly, right? So you can kind of compensate and make it more difficult by just adding things like that. Okay. Just extra time. Or like, let's say he hates the vacuum cleaner.
He hates the vacuum cleaner. That's on my list. I have a list of I got a few things to cover in all these lessons. Vacuum cleaner and give. He does not give me things.
Oh, release, sure.
Yeah,
or
release.
drop, yeah. So let's say the vacuum cleaner. Okay, what does he do?
He treats it like it's a dog. Down, barking, biting at it.
Okay.
Just,
So, which is normal because he doesn't know what the vacuum cleaner is. So there's 2 ways of going about vacuum cleaner. You can use it to proof your command. Okay, so here you have him set up, he's on the leash, you have the remote and all that stuff, right? You bring out the vacuum cleaner, you don't have it on, okay? Come in with it off, and you're just pretend vacuuming, and you correct any intent, right? But what can happen is if he's on the place and he sees the vacuum and he perks up, and you tap him, in the beginning what you might see is it'll push him off, because he thinks being on the bed is what causes the tap.
I see.
So if he flushes off, you then keep tapping, guide him back on, and then once he's on, we stop. We keep moving. He looks again, tap him. Oh no.
I see.
Jumps off. Keep tapping, back on.
Until he connects it to his attentiveness.
Correct. So then he's going to learn it's not for being on place, it's for being alert to the vacuum. So then you'll tap him, and then you'll see him do this. Okay? And then you get closer with the vacuum, right? And then once you feel like, okay, he's good, then we move to turn the vacuum on, but at a distance. Okay? Then maybe he starts to jump off the bed and barking, whatever.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, well, 1, you're to correct this behavior, but then 2, it gives you foundation just for reactivity.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's going to be similar in terms of the energy and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I would probably assume 45.
Okay.
Taking into what I've learned.
And I still don't say the word again. Like I turn that after he's reacted to the vacuum being on, I turn it off and then get the leash and just tap him, lead him back to the bed.
Right.
Okay.
The moment he's on, we stop. Okay, and then we go back.
Okay.
Now, if you're going back and you see he's still like alert, you can correct there. Okay, you don't have to go back to the vacuum and try to continue again.
Yeah.
Because you can see he's clearly in that zone.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you move to the vacuum on, and then your number might go up, and then eventually you'll just see him on the bed, kind of like indifferent to the vacuum. He might even turn. You probably even see some shaking.
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey, I don't like that thing.
Right.
So then as it's on, you can slowly kind of close the gap and bring it closer and go away.
Okay.
So then you're doing one of two things. You're teaching him you can't attack the vacuum, but then two, you're teaching him how to deal with stress.
Yes.
Okay, you just have to accept it. There's
Yeah.
things that are going to happen that you just have to accept.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then you use that as a kind of baseline for your activity outside as well.
Yeah.
The other option would be he's not on place. I bring out the vacuum and he charges it, and I correct him for charging the vacuum, like you correct him for charging the fence.
Right.
Don't do that, because technically, if he's on place and you said break, attack the vacuum. Right. This goes back to the jumping thing. Right.
He still has to have manners. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is what we call preventative control. So we have prevention and intervention.
Uh-huh.
Prevention is go here while I vacuum.
Yeah.
So if you're there, you can't attack the vacuum.
Right.
Intervention is he's free. You can do what he wants.
Right.
And I come in the vacuum, he tries to attack, and I directly intervene with the
Yeah.
behavior to tell him you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're going to do, but you're not going to do that.
Right.
Okay? So that's the difference between behavior and obedience. Obedience is typically preventative, whereas behavior is interventive.
So I might actually have to do both of those things.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's beneficial to do both.
Yeah, I like the idea of practicing place because that will, I mean, the vacuum will create a big stress for him. So I like that idea of like, once we have it solid, let's test it, as you said.
Correct.
Okay.
And then you make it easy, of course, off, and then
Right.
that's good.
Right, yeah.
Then we go to on.
Right.
And anything that he may not like I have a client, her dog is very touch sensitive, and we're using this as a means for her to start kind of delving into the behavior stuff, because it's putting him under stress, and he hates the vacuum, and he hates the hair blower.
Oh, yeah, he hasn't reacted to that actually, but
No.
the vacuum, whew.
Vacuum, broom, sweeping, mopping, whatever, anything that you know that he dislikes,
Yeah.
you can use to your advantage.
Okay.
Okay? Questions about any of this?
No, it's going to be a full week suddenly. So I do a lot of
so
training.
so now we have something that we can practice indoors, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing that we're going to do is you're going to release him, and they're going to start layering in the word. Now, I say place, some clients say bed or go to your bed. What would you like to use?
Let's say place.
Place,
It
okay.
won't always be, not that he knows it's good, but I like place.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is everything's going to stay the same, except we're going to cue the word place first, then start the tapping process, and if he doesn't respond by the second or third tap, keep tapping, and then pull.
Okay.
The reason why we're not really bumping that much right now is because we're conditioning a behavior.
Got it.
Okay. Once he knows the behavior, that's when that 3-tap rule would kind of come into
Okay,
play,
that makes
because
sense.
that's more so him just being resistant to the behavior.
Right. He knew what he should have done, but wasn't doing it. That
Correct.
makes sense.
With the heel, he was resisting and not wanting to move, and we needed him to move, so that's why we had to bump it to get him to go forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Everything's there. Wait here, and go ahead and get up first, and then break.
Break. Good boy. Good boy. Should we start from far away again? Or
Yeah, we'll do about
three
3 feet.
squares?
3 squares. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I say it and then start tapping?
Correct. Right. So go ahead and walk up to the placement, get in position first. Good. And then you're going to cue the word place.
Place.
Then tap, 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 right there. Good. And then wait a moment. And break.
Break. Good boy. Good boy. Okay.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Place.
2. There you go. Right there. Good. And a stretch.
Those hips.
Good.
Break. Good
Good.
boy. Good boy. Good boy.
3 more.
Place.
Good.
Break. Good dog. Good dog. Come on.
Good. 2 more.
Is that okay? Place.
Tap. 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 Good.
Break.
Good.
Good boy. Good boy. Come on.
Right, good. And then relax for a moment. Now.
Place.
Tap. Good. Good. So, see how obvious it is when you cue it and then you tap him and he's leading you to go there?
Yeah.
So now that's how you can tell that the dog understands the concept of the scent. Okay? So now we're going to repeat the same process, except once you've sent him, you're going to begin to walk around him. Okay? So he should stay put.
Okay.
So you send him place, he goes. When you walk around, if he gets up and walks within the place, no big deal.
Right.
But if he tries to step off, you would stop to correct him. He goes back on, and then you would reset and start to circle again.
Okay.
Okay, so you should be able to complete 1 circle without him moving off of the area before you release him.
Okay. And I start walking after he's fully on the place, or
Correct.
as he starts to move to
Once he's on completely.
Okay. Okay. Break. Okay. Come on. Good job. Place.
That's okay. Then wait a little bit. Now break.
Break. Good boy. That was good. Okay, come on.
Good. 4 more.
Place.
Good. Good.
Break. Good dog. Good dog. Come on. Good boy.
Good. 2 more.
This side seems to be our hardest side. Place.
Good. Good.
Break. Good boy.
Good. And last one.
Good boy.
Right.
I don't feel okay.
No, you're good. And then relax a little bit. Good. Now.
Place.
Go. Good.
It's interesting that he never came off.
Now here, go ahead and come in and brace him.
Good dog. Good boy.
You got him.
Good boy. What a good boy you are. Good boy.
And then he's going to stay put and you're going to back away. Good. And then go ahead and have a seat again. Tap. 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 Now here, keep tapping and then a little bit of pressure to get him back. Tap. 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 Like that. Good. So you see how easy that was?
Yeah.
So he was able to figure out what to do there without you even getting up because of how we taught it. Okay, he was learning that I leave here to go there. So the ending part of petting him to distract him, and then sitting down to incentivize the mistake.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, because then he felt release.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So, any questions about this so far? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
One thing, so this is in stages. So for the first week, I always start with the dog close by, like right at my feet, to make correcting easier. Okay. If you're gonna get up during this week, what I suggest is before you get up, you release him, and then you get up to go do your thing.
Okay.
And then you can come back and reposition him, or let him be.
Because I can't correct him if I walk away and then he doesn't stay where he's supposed to stay.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna build to that.
Yeah.
So the reason why we release first and then get up is to prevent the pattern. Because if I get up and then release him, he's gonna assume every time I get up, I'm gonna release him.
I see.
That's how
So you
we
say
do
it
it.
before you stand up.
Correct.
That seems critical. Okay, I didn't realize that was so critical. Okay. I see.
Yeah, because there's nothing for him to pick up on.
Okay.
Because dogs are very body language savvy.
Yeah.
And he'll start picking up like, oh, every time you stand up, you say break.
Yeah.
So I get to move. So he's
Okay.
gonna assume that, which creates a problem later on.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So I release him first, and then we get up.
Okay.
The second week, if you've been practicing this regularly, is he's in place, still close to you, and you can get up and walk away, but he doesn't move.
Okay.
Because if he does move, and you correct him, it's gonna be easier, because you've already done a week's worth of work.
Right.
Okay,
It's
kinda
got
like
the
this was
foundation.
easier. Exactly.
Yeah.
The third week, we start to go with him at a distance, kind of like this distance, off to the side or whatever. And then by the fourth week, he's over like in a corner, and you're walking around or whatever, and he stays put. Okay, now during this time frame, he's still on the leash. In case he makes a mistake, you can either step on it or grab it, whatever, to give you more control and to limit his range of motion. Because if you go straight to no leash, he's going to run off.
He wins. Yeah.
Okay. Let me think.
Do I need a longer leash? I think I remember reading that on your website, but I haven't.
Oh,
purchased
for
it
the
yet.
recall stuff,
Yeah.
you'll need one.
A 20-foot? Is that what I read?
30 foot.
30 foot.
30 foot, yeah. And you won't need that till like class 4 or so.
Okay.
Because we're gonna be delayed a week because of the weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, but for this exercise, you're fine with your short leash.
Yeah.
The long leash really comes into play when we're doing outside stuff.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as too much of this because you're just doing, don't move.
Right.
When it comes to the sending exercise that we're doing right now, 2 to 3 minutes a day, 2 times a day.
Okay.
Once you see that he goes there quickly and easily, and you can say place and he just goes there, then you don't have to worry about practicing that. Okay, because the reason for practicing the place and release back to back like we were is to make it more easier for him to build his concept, right? Because if I say place and it takes him like 5 minutes to figure it out, he's never going to get that concept. You want it to be place and he just goes, right?
Okay.
So that's what the purpose of this back and forth was to make that easier for him.
Okay.
The duration aspect of it is done separately, okay? But you can do them on the same day. So you can do like a little short session in the morning with like 2 to 3 minutes of him going there, and then you think, okay, I'm gonna eat breakfast and I'm gonna have him not move for 30 minutes.
So then I would put him there and not say anything, he just has to stay, and then I'm eating my breakfast.
Correct.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so you place, he goes to place, or you tap him to place, whatever, and then you eat breakfast, and then break, release him, and then you can take off the equipment he's done. Okay? I think here. Don't try to jump ahead. A lot of people try that, where they'll like have the dog over here, and they'll be over here.
Oh, I
and
see.
then they complain, they're like, Jessica, keep walking back. I'm like, yeah, that's why I said don't do that. I said start with it right here.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of corrections in the beginning.
Right.
So if you go all the way to this, you're walking back and forth 20 times.
Right.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, so we build to that.
Yeah.
And you can do as long as you need. He's just staying put in one place.
Right.
Here when we do our boarding trainings, they practice in total about 6 to 8 hours a day, broken up into like 2-hour segments throughout the day, where they're not moving for a period of time.
Okay.
So when they go home to their owners, they have really reliable duration control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else or any other questions?
I would, well, I don't know what time it is, but if you could just check to make sure, I should have had you do this early on, but just check to make sure I put the collar on, like location correctly. I used the same hole that you used, I taped it, but make sure, like I watched the video. But then I realized I should have had you check that before I left last week since I have been doing it for a week.
No, this is a good fit.
Does that feel,
Yeah.
and it's in the same, right, like cheek area for him?
Yeah, so anywhere from here to here is up for grabs. We just tend to stay away from here.
Yeah.
So like these two pockets right here are fine.
Yeah.
And what I suggest is don't always put it in the same spot.
I've been switching sides,
Yes.
left to right.
Because we had that happen to a client where they kept using the same side and without the pressure source.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing as leaning out for a long time.
Right.
So, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Because even earlier when you're at the lower numbers, I could see the muscle twitching. You had good
Yeah.
contact. It's just it wasn't at the level enough that was concerning
Reaction.
to motivate him to actually do something.
Right.
Okay.
No, I just thought I should have had you check that last week to make sure that, because you put it on last week and then I got home and I was like, oh God, I haven't done this.
No, that's
But I
fine.
watched the video, I want to make sure.
Yeah, no, this all looks correct.
I did add one link to the collar because I was having trouble getting it on and off,
Mhm.
especially when my hands were so cold.
Sure.
But I think I hope it's still good enough.
That's
I
with-
just
with
was
the-
having a lot of trouble getting it off and on.
With the e-collar, it helps keep it in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I feel good about all of that. I think I feel good about the place plan. So yeah, no, that's good. And I've been doing the muzzle feeding.
Yep.
You had mentioned a plastic bag, which made me nervous, but I've been using a cupcake,
Yeah, sure.
thing, like a little cupcake foil thing, and I put that in, and then he can eat out of it just fine.
Yeah, we use
Should I
the
be
block
doing
bags.
anything else with
No, just keep doing that.
feeding him out of the muzzle?
Yeah, keep doing that. The next thing would be, does he keep his face in there and eat the entire time, or does he pull out?
He pulls out because sometimes they fall, so he checks the ground, but then he'll come back in and put his nose back in again.
Okay. What I would do is if there's still kibble in the muzzle, is when he pulls his face out, put it away.
Oh.
You want to teach him to keep the face in there.
Okay.
So what happens is when he pulls out, because he thinks he dropped something and he goes back up and he's gone,
Yeah.
he's gonna go, oh, every time I pull out from
Okay.
there, it
I lose the
disappears.
opportunity.
He's gonna want to keep his face in there.
Okay.
And then the next time you do that, eventually after a couple of meals,
He'll
you'll
keep
just
his
see
mouth
him eat nonstop.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else? All right, awesome.
Okay.
He's doing good. Much better than last week. I can see.
I
he
know,
got
right? Last week.